G'day YouTubers and welcome to another video. This video is about one of the projects that I currently have on. I mentioned in the last couple of videos I've got a lot of projects on. I've got video footage of all of them and they'll all get up there eventually, but for the moment I'm putting up this one on dashboard modifications. I put a still up on it on YouTube and Facebook and got a lot of interest. So I thought I'd put the video up now. It'll probably be two parts. I haven't started editing it yet, but I expect it'll be two parts. I haven't abandoned the offshore series, but I would like to postpone it a little bit or slow it down a little bit until I can get back out on the water and get some screenshots for you guys. I think that'll make them a lot more interesting and useful. So in the meantime, let's start on a couple of these modification videos. I'm using this bit of, I can't think what it's called now. Sort of like a cardboard that they sold as a timber replacement. No, it's not particle board, it's, well, whatever it is. It's like a heavy cardboard anyway, and I'm using that to cut a template for the new dashboard. And I figure it's going to sit about there. So that's the first thing, is to get a bit of ply cut for here. And then I'll do some duct tape or something to hold it in place while I shape the back section, which is going to be Airex foam, because that's nice and easy to bend, and I'm going to bend that around, follow this shape here, but bend it around up here so it just clears the MFD. I think that'll look pretty good. I'm going to ditch the compass altogether because I can't figure out anywhere to put it, and the law says I don't need a compass as long as I've got electronic substitutes, which I always have. This will go down here, this will go down there, these will come down here, and the new autopilot will go in the centre. And these I've got to figure out. I don't know where to put them at the moment. Pull the hummingbird out and pull the mounting plate out for it. So now I can really decide what I'm going to do here, because I've got the room to work it out. The switch panels are the difficult bits at the moment. I've got these two switch panels. I would like to replace them with something that had circuit breakers in it, or at least fuses directly built in, so I didn't have all those inline fuses hanging out the back. After I nearly finished the box that I was going to mount it in, I saw this guy had done a beautiful job of fitting it into his dash panel by significantly altering the dash. So here we go again, starting from scratch. I'm going to significantly alter my dash and try and do the same thing. When you're cutting out bits like this, it pays to have good tools and a steady hand. You can get away with one or the other and a little bit more sanding, but having both is best. Before I go any further, go down, test fit it, make sure we're on the right track. What I'm doing here is marking the outside of the dashboard and also marking the cutout where the MFD is going to go. I don't want to cut out that just yet, but I do want the mark there so that I can just make sure that everything's going to fit where it needs to. You can either use a compass for marking the corners or just any convenient round object and trace around the edge of it. I've started marking it up now. I'm sort of sit and think about it a little bit. I only get one chance to cut this. If I mess it up, I've got a lot of patching to do. I'm not going to cut it for a day or so until I've had time to mull it over and make sure I'm doing the right thing. You can see I'm going to cut up here around this dotted line here, I think, over there, down there, back to here, down there and across. Cut that whole section out. Then I've got to make the Airex foam fit the hole that I've made. In order to do that and glass it in properly, I'm going to have to take this whole windscreen off, which is a proper pain. Not what I wanted to do. Well, I'd have a lot of holes to plug up if I wasn't cutting the whole piece out. As it is, I've got this hole to plug up. I'm going to have these holes to plug up. And probably that one, depending on I put there, I might be able to cut him out. I'm pretty much decided that the inside cover's not going back on, mainly, or pretty much solely, because it's too much trouble to try and fit everything in with it there. I'll have much more opportunity to make things neat and fit everything in without it, so that's what I'm going to be doing. Which means I have to cut all the wires and make them all neat, because I can't just half do the job and leave it uncovered and leave the mess that was there when I got the boat. That was from the fit out people. This is the rubber strip that sits along this bottom piece, which hides all the screws that hold the aluminium for the window in place. I've moved that. I've got all the screws out. I'd say there's probably a bit of elastic or something under the window, at least half of it, because half it wriggles and the other half doesn't. So I'll have to just gently coax that in a little while. In the meanwhile, I'll take the rest of the rubber off from around the front of the windscreen where I've got to get it. There's these pieces here. I hope you can see that. There's a bit of a U-shaped thing. It's actually this piece here. I got that off the other side. That's got to come off. I've got one really stubborn screw just there. He's not coming. I'll put some CRC on him to try and coax him a little bit. I don't want to burr that head if I can help it. If that doesn't work, I might just apply a tiny little bit of heat and see how that goes. And if that doesn't work, I'm just going to have to get it out and replace it, which would be unfortunate. This rubber here, hoping that's in the view, comes out fairly easy. You just got to get a start on it. After that, it just comes off very easy. Then you got all these screws down in here to get out. They're not in real tight, so just remember that when you go to put them back in, you don't want to strip the thread out of them. Well, I imagine the sticker flex there doing most of the holding, or not sticker flex, probably more likely elastic, so you can get it off. At least I hope that's the case, because I don't want to have to fight with a sticker flex to get it off if I can help it. Very important when you're dealing with lots and lots of parts is to make sure you keep everything together that you're going to need to put back. This is all the windscreen screws. Never hurts to tag everything, just in case it's long enough before you get back to it that you've forgotten what you had. I don't think I will, but I know if it's tagged I won't. Oh, okay. Well, that was fairly easy. Right, that came off very easy. So it goes back just as easy. Things are looking a bit different now. Got everything out of the boat. I'm going to make one unholy mess in here. Okay, so you must be stuck on the bit of plastic that's under there. Oh, damn. Oh, Here's a tip if you've got to get the windscreen off your boat, or in fact if you're doing anything where you're trying to separate something from your gel coat where it's been stuck there with Stickerflex or Celastic or whatever, and that is use a plastic implement to get in between them and break the seal. A couple of times here you'll see I'm using a metal screwdriver and I'm putting it in separately. That's just to support the windscreen and keep the gap open while I move the plastic. Most of the time I'm using the screwdriver, I slide it in on top of the plastic spatula so that I'm not damaging the gel coat. You've got to be very, very careful not to damage your gel coat. And if you've got anything stronger than a plastic spatula, that's not a bad idea either, so long as it's plastic and it won't damage your gel coat. Okay, that's stuck down well. See if we can go this way. Right, coming up. A bit more. Oh, can you go further? Oh. That's it. Next thing I've got to do is cut some little fills for here and then glass over them. Okay, what I need to do is to put some core material in here, so I'm not filling the whole thing with glass. You could fill the whole thing with glass if you wanted to. It's not all that thick, but I think it'll be better with a little bit of core material. And this 6mm ply that I've got is pretty much the exact same size as glass, so that means any glass I put on is going to go over the top of it, not quite what I want. So I've got this thinner stuff here, it's a bit on the thin side, but what I can do with that is put it in the centre and glass up underneath and down from the top. And in order to do that, I need to mark out exactly the piece I need to fill in the hole. Okay, mark these other two. Pieces of wood in there now. They're a nice, neat sort of pressed fit. They're a little bit difficult to get in, but there's still a little gap around bits of the edges where resin could leak through. So what I've done is on the inside, I've lined it with duct tape. Now, if duct tape won't fix it, it's really broken. So what that's going to do is just stop any drips from seeping down past the ply and dripping down into the boat. So that should work fairly well. I can glass that up, and then one of the other jobs I've got to do is cut this out. And if you've watched any of my videos before, you'll know I just hate cutting my boat or putting a hole in it. So much stress involved. Did I get it right? Am I going to cut too much? Am I going to be able to fix it? Yes, all that. Drilling the corner holes to start the cutout for the dashboard, and I'm going to drill a pilot for them just so I get it exact. There we go. Now, before I do any more, I'll double check that measurement. Okay, check how they look on the lines, and they look as though they'll be okay on the lines. So now we can turn him over and just finish him off on the other side. That way you don't make too much of a mess of your surface layer of your ply. That's not too bad. Not a lot of excess room around it, but it is enough. This is just filling up the holes that were there. I put the ply in there, as you can see, in those other holes. I think I showed that in the last video when I did that yesterday, provided it comes out, because a lot of these videos don't get edited until well after I've done them, so if they don't come out I miss out on the footage. So I tend to try and double up a little bit on the explanations to compensate for those sort of events. Anyway, this is very narrow spots to do, so I'm using the brush to stipple it down and make sure it's all wetted out and get any air bubbles out of the mat. It's not as good as using a roller, but sometimes it's the best you can do. And in those occasions, in small places like that, it's usually good enough. So. If you haven't got your cloth positioned properly, you can use the brush to push it around, but only with cloth. It doesn't work too well with chop strand mat, and cloth is a lot more expensive. I'm only using it because I've got leftover cloth from a job, whoa, probably 30 years ago or more now. Cloth has got no use by date. This is good satin weave S-glass, way overkill for this job, but I've got it, therefore it is free because it was left over, so I can afford to use it. Ideally, you should hot resin apply before you try to put fiberglass on it, because it can soak up the bottom layer of resin and dry out the bottom of the glass, as it doesn't adhere as well. I'm thinking because I can't roll this out and I've got big, huge excess of resin in the matting anyway, I'm thinking I'll be safe. Because one of the reasons you roll it out is to remove excess resin, otherwise your glass is no stronger for the resin. It's the fibres that make it strong, and it just ends up heavier than it needs to be. So rolling it out is as much to remove the excess resin as it is to remove any air bubbles, which also weaken it. So anyway, because of all the excess resin got in here, I think I'll get away with it all right. Now, if you're rolling it out and trying to do a good light job, good light strong job, then you would want to hot resin your ply first so that it doesn't soak up too much of the resin you want for the glass. I've got to say, this 8 satin weave cloth is a lot easier to work with than chop strand mat. I do like it a lot better. I've worked with both, and I can tell you this is the bee's knees, this one. Oh dear, one thing I didn't think of, I didn't save one of them as used as a template to cut some more. Oh dear, okay. Well, just have to wing it. Damn, I don't have time to do anything more with this one. The resin will go off before I can get anything more cut. Yeah, that's a shame. Well, fix him up tomorrow. Oh dear. That's how it's going to go, like that. The dashboard will sit in there like that, and I'll fill in this piece in between here and the dashboard, so that I've got somewhere to run the wires from the remote control and coil up all the excess if I decide not to cut it. Although I am going to open it up and see if it is possible to cut it, and just makes it neater. But yeah, that'll just fit there. I'll have to slope the side piece in a little bit this way just to clear the edge, give plenty of clearance on the edge to the Peruno. But yes, that will work. That will work. Autopilot down there, gauges there and anchor there, or gauge, anchor in between, something like that. I'll figure that out when the time comes. Radio going to be down there, which will be a little bit hard to read, but maybe I can break a bracket to angle it up a little bit. That might be worth considering before I mount that. Yes, making an angle bracket so that it sticks out a little bit. Definitely. Well, I think this video is getting long enough now. I wanted to go into enough details so that if anyone is inclined to try and do this themselves, they have a bit of an idea of how I went about it. You really do need to know a little bit about fiberglassing, so if you haven't done it before, I suggest you do a little bit of practice fiberglassing before you tackle a project like this, or perhaps take it somewhere and get a professional to do it. At the very least, you know it can be done, and you've got an idea of how I've laid out my dashboard and how it's worked, although you won't see that until the final video goes up. And I'm not sure how we're going to go now. At the beginning, I think I said we're going to do 2 videos on this. It may end up being 3 because I do want to go into enough detail that you have a real appreciation of the amount of work that goes into this, just so you don't start a project and think, oh, what have I done? Anyway, next video goes up next week. Until then, good fishing. I won't be doing any.